It was the beginning of the fall semester at Maplewood University, a picturesque campus known for its Gothic architecture and rich history. Among the students was Jenna, a sophomore majoring in psychology. Eager to immerse herself in campus life, she moved into an old residence hall known as Hawthorne House, notorious for its charming yet eerie reputation. The first few nights were filled with the typical excitement of college life: late-night study sessions, laughter echoing through the halls, and the usual whispers of relationships budding in the dark corners. However, Jenna quickly began to notice something strange. The walls of Hawthorne House seemed to hum with a low, almost imperceptible sound, like distant whispers that ebbed and flowed when the hall was quiet. Curiosity piqued. Jenna mentioned the whispers to her roommate, Leah, who shrugged it off as an old building settling. But that night, as they lay in bed, the whispers became louder, weaving through the silence like an insistent breeze. Jenna tried to ignore it, but sleep evaded her, leaving her restless and uneasy. The following week, Jenna learned from a classmate about the building's history. Decades ago, a student had gone missing from Hawthorne House. Her name was Margaret, and rumors swirled that she had been drawn to the old library in the basement, a place few ventured into after dark. The case was never solved, and some believed her spirit still lingered in the halls, seeking something or someone. Intrigued and unnerved, Jenna decided to explore the basement library one evening. Armed with a flashlight and her phone, she descended the narrow staircase. The air was thick with dust and the smell of old books. Shadows danced along the walls, and as she ventured deeper, the whispers returned, this time more distinct. They seemed to call her name, pulling her toward the far end of the room. Jenna's heart raced as she approached a shelf that appeared older than the others. She reached out, and as her fingers brushed against the spines of the books, the whispers crescendoed into a cacophony of voices. Startled, she stumbled back and dropped her flashlight, plunging the room into darkness. Panic surged through her as she fumbled for her phone, its screen illuminating the room with a dim glow. The whispers subsided, replaced by a chilling silence. Just as she began to regain her composure, a soft voice broke through. "Help me," it whispered, filled with desperation. Jenna's breath caught in her throat. "Who are you?" she called, her voice shaky. "Find me." "In the walls," the voice urged, before fading into silence. Shaken, Jenna fled the library, her heart pounding. Back in her room, she shared her experience with Leah, who was skeptical but agreed to investigate with her the next night. Together, they returned to the basement, determined to uncover the truth. As they entered the library, the atmosphere felt heavy, as if the air itself was watching. Jenna steeled herself, stepping toward the ominous shelf again. This time, Leah grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Wait, let's check the other side first." Reluctantly, Jenna agreed, but as they turned, the whispers flared up once more, louder and more frantic. "Jenna, Leah," they echoed, twisting around them like a storm. The girls froze, their eyes darting around the room. Suddenly, a book fell from the shelf, landing at their feet with a thud. Jenna picked it up, her hands trembling. The title read The Vanished. Flipping it open, she found an old newspaper clipping tucked inside, detailing Margaret's disappearance and a chilling quote, "She was never found." Before they could process the implications, a loud crash reverberated through the library, making them scream. The lights flickered, and in that moment of chaos, Jenna felt a cold hand brush against her arm. Terrified, they bolted out of the library, the whispers chasing them up the stairs. After that night, Jenna and Leah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Jenna's dreams turned dark. She saw glimpses of a girl with hollow eyes, her mouth moving in silent pleas. Desperate for answers, Jenna visited the campus archives, digging deeper into Margaret's story. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew louder, more persistent, until Jenna could no longer tell where they ended and her thoughts began. Haunted by the lingering voice, she became fixated on uncovering what happened to Margaret. Each discovery pulled her deeper into the mystery, but it also began to affect her studies and friendships. One night, overwhelmed and sleep-deprived, Jenna decided to return to the basement alone. She needed closure. With only her phone for light, she descended once more into the depths of Hawthorne House. The whispers enveloped her, a cacophony of despair that beckoned her forward. "Help me," came the voice again, this time closer, more urgent. Jenna followed it to the back of the library, where the air felt electric. She pressed her ear to the wall, and for a brief moment, the whispers subsided. A stillness enveloped her, and then she heard a soft sobbing from within the wall itself. "Please," the voice pleaded, "find me." Driven by a mix of fear and compassion, Jenna began to knock on the wall, her heart racing. She could feel the energy of the place shift, the walls almost vibrating beneath her touch. "I'm here," she cried. "I want to help you." Suddenly, the wall cracked, and a chilling gust of wind surged past her, extinguishing her phone light. In the pitch black, Jenna felt a presence of cold, ethereal force wrapping around her. "Stay with me," the voice whispered, as Jenna struggled to break free. In a moment of pure terror, Jenna managed to turn and run, her heart pounding in her chest. She sprinted up the stairs and burst into the hallway, gasping for breath. Behind her, the whispers faded, leaving only the echo of Margaret's desperate plea hanging in the air. In the days that followed, Jenna's grip on reality began to slip. She found herself drawn to the basement again and again, each time hearing Margaret's voice call her deeper into the darkness. It was as if the walls were closing in, swallowing her whole. Jenna finally reached a breaking point. In a final attempt to end the haunting, she gathered her courage and organized a group of friends to conduct a seance in the library, hoping to communicate with the spirit. The night was tense, filled with flickering candles and hushed voices as they called out to Margaret. "Show us a sign," Jenna urged, her hands trembling. But as the air thickened with tension, the lights flickered violently, and the whispers morphed into screams. A loud crash erupted, sending books flying from the shelves, and Jenna felt a cold grip around her throat. Panicking, they fled the library. But as they reached the exit, Jenna turned back, compelled by an unseen force. "I can't leave you," she screamed into the darkness. In that moment, she understood Margaret wasn't seeking help. She was pulling Jenna into her eternal prison. As the darkness enveloped her, Jenna felt her own voice join the chorus of whispers that echoed through the halls of Hawthorne House, another soul lost to its whispering walls. Weeks later, Leah and the other students still spoke of Jenna, wondering what had happened to her. But in the quiet of the library, the whispers remained, beckoning the next curious soul to seek the truth behind the vanished girl's haunting plea. At Crestwood University, the fall semester was in full swing, and students buzzed with anticipation for the annual last lecture event. It was a tradition where a professor, chosen by students, would give a final talk that encapsulated their life lessons and insights. This year, Dr. Avery, the enigmatic psychology professor known for her captivating lectures and mysterious past, was selected. As the date approached, whispers about Dr. Avery's life circulated among students. Some said she had lost a child, others speculated about her struggles with mental illness. Yet, despite the rumors, her students admired her dedication and depth of understanding. On the night of the last lecture, the auditorium filled with students, eager to hear Dr. Avery's words. The atmosphere was charged with excitement and a hint of apprehension. When she stepped onto the stage, her presence commanded attention. She began her talk, sharing stories of resilience, loss, and the intricate workings of the human mind. But as she spoke, a palpable shift occurred. The air grew heavy, and her words took on an almost haunting quality. "Our minds can be our greatest ally or our worst enemy," she said, her gaze piercing the audience. "But sometimes, they can also play tricks on us." Students shifted in their seats, a sense of unease settling over the room. As Dr. Avery continued, she recounted her own experiences with grief and trauma, her voice trembling with emotion. "I want you to remember, some shadows never truly leave us. They linger, waiting for the right moment to return." The lights flickered briefly, and a chill swept through the auditorium. A student in the front row shivered, feeling an inexplicable presence. Dr. Avery paused, her expression distant for a moment, as if she were lost in a memory. Then she resumed, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Tonight, I want you to confront your own shadows. What haunts you? What have you buried deep within?" The students listened intently, a mix of curiosity and fear coursing through them. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the auditorium. Everyone turned to see a figure stumbling through the door. Tom, a popular student known for his laid-back attitude. His eyes were wide with terror, and he gasped, "You have to stop her." Confusion swept through the audience. "What are you talking about?" someone called out. Tom took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "I saw her. In the hallway. Dr. Avery isn't who you think she is." Before he could elaborate, the lights went out completely. Gasps filled the room as emergency lights flickered to life, casting eerie shadows across the walls. Dr. Avery's figure remained illuminated on stage, her expression unreadable. "Tom, this isn't the time for jokes," she said, her voice steady yet cold. "You're scaring everyone." But Tom was insistent, trembling as he pointed at the stage. "You don't understand. I saw her. She was different. Her face, it wasn't right." A murmur spread through the crowd. Dr. Avery stepped forward, her demeanor shifting. "You need to let this go, Tom. Your mind is playing tricks on you." But Tom was undeterred. "I'm not crazy. I saw something. Something horrible." Before he could say more, the lights flickered again, this time plunging the room into darkness. The audience erupted in panic, some screaming as they stumbled over chairs to find exits. Dr. Avery's voice cut through the chaos, commanding, "Stay calm. It's just a power outage." But as the lights came back on, Tom was gone. Panic escalated, and the students rushed to the exits, desperate to escape the unsettling atmosphere. Dr. Avery stood alone on the stage, her expression inscrutable. A few days later, the university was abuzz with the aftermath. Tom's disappearance sent shockwaves through campus, and Dr. Avery canceled classes, claiming she needed time to grieve the loss of a student. Yet, students grew increasingly suspicious. Whispers about the last lecture and the incident began to circulate. Curiosity got the better of Jenna, a close friend of Tom's. She decided to investigate. Late one night, she ventured into the psychology building, hoping to find answers. The halls were dimly lit, shadows flickering in the corners. Jenna's heart raced as she approached Dr. Avery's office. She knocked hesitantly. "Dr. Avery, can I talk to you?" Silence followed. Just as she turned to leave, the door creaked open. Dr. Avery stood there, her expression unsettlingly calm. "Jenna, what brings you here?" "I want to know what happened to Tom," Jenna said, her voice trembling. "He was scared. He thought you were hiding something." Dr. Avery's gaze hardened. Tom was struggling with his own demons. "I tried to help him, but he wouldn't listen." Jenna pressed, "But he saw something. Something about you. Please, just tell me the truth." Dr. Avery stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Sometimes, the past comes back to haunt us in ways we cannot predict. You must be careful with what you seek." Jenna felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" But before Dr. Avery could respond, the lights flickered, and the air around them grew heavy. Jenna glanced at the door, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. She backed away, but Dr. Avery blocked her path. "You can't escape what you're afraid of, Jenna," she said, her voice now eerily calm. Panicking, Jenna pushed past her and ran down the hall, her breath quickening. She stumbled upon a darkened classroom where she found Tom's belongings, his backpack, his notes, all left behind. On the desk lay a notebook, open to a page filled with frantic sketches and notes about Dr. Avery. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. Jenna turned to see Dr. Avery standing in the doorway, a shadowy figure looming behind her. "You shouldn't have come here," she said, her tone chillingly calm. As Jenna's heart raced, the figure in the doorway flickered, a visage that seemed to shift and twist. It looked like Tom, pale, wide-eyed, as if trapped between realms. "Help me," he whispered, his voice echoing from the darkness. Jenna screamed and bolted for the exit, the laughter of the shadows chasing her. She burst into the hall, gasping for breath, desperate to escape the darkness that threatened to consume her. The next morning, Jenna awoke in her dorm room, unsure if what had happened was real or a nightmare. But as she looked in the mirror, she noticed a faint mark on her neck, a handprint, cold and lingering. She felt a heaviness in her chest, an awareness that something had followed her from that dark classroom. Weeks later, Dr. Avery resigned suddenly, her departure shrouded in mystery. The university buzzed with speculation, but Jenna knew better. The shadows of Crestwood University held their secrets tightly, and she could feel Tom's presence lingering, a haunting reminder that some stories are never truly finished. As she walked through campus, she could still hear the whispers, the echoes of what once was, and the chilling truth that some shadows never leave. Sophia was thrilled to start her junior year at Ravenwood University, especially after landing a spot in one of the most sought-after dorms on campus, Hawthorne Hall. The building was old, with creaking floors and long corridors that seemed to breathe with history. Students often exchanged ghost stories about the place, but Sophia brushed them off as urban legends until she moved into room 204. From the first night, she felt a strange energy in her room. It was an unsettling mixture of warmth and cold, as if someone had just left the space. At first, she attributed it to the age of the building, but things began to escalate. A few weeks into the semester, Sophia started hearing noises at night. Soft whispers seemed to float through the walls, and the sound of shuffling feet echoed in the hallway when she knew everyone else was asleep. She mentioned it to her roommate, Kate, who shrugged it off. "It's just the old building settling," she said, half laughing, "or maybe it's the ghosts everyone talks about." Sophia laughed it off too, but the whispers persisted. They became louder, clearer, and more insistent. "Get out," they seemed to say, always just on the edge of comprehension. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but the following week, she found a small, dusty mirror tucked away in the corner of the room. It was covered in cobwebs and seemed out of place, like it had been forgotten for years. Curiosity got the better of her. She cleaned it up and hung it on the wall. That night, as she lay in bed, she caught a glimpse of something moving in the reflection, a shadow darting past the door. Heart racing, she sat up and turned to look, but there was nothing there. As the weeks passed, Sophia's sleep began to suffer. She'd lie awake for hours, listening to the whispers grow louder, feeling the chill in the air. Kate remained skeptical, but started to feel uneasy herself when she noticed how often Sophia spoke of the strange occurrences. One evening, as they were studying, Sophia pointed to the mirror. "Do you ever get the feeling it's watching us?" Kate rolled her eyes but glanced at the mirror, suddenly feeling uncomfortable. "Maybe we should just cover it up," she suggested. That night, Sophia awoke to the sound of her name being called softly. "Sophia, come here." The voice was melodic but chilling, drawing her in. She looked around the dark room, heart pounding. Kate was sound asleep, but Sophia felt compelled to rise. She followed the voice, feeling an irresistible pull toward the mirror. As she approached, the air grew colder, and she felt a rush of energy. The whispers swirled around her, drowning out her thoughts. "Look closer," they urged. She leaned in, peering into the mirror. At first, she saw only her reflection, but then it shifted. The glass rippled like water, and she gasped as a face emerged, hollow eyes, a sad smile, and an overwhelming sense of despair. It looked almost like her, but not quite. Panic surged through her, and she stumbled back, tripping over the edge of her bed. The next morning, Sophia told Kate about the incident, but Kate remained dismissive. "You're just tired. Maybe you need to take a break from studying." Sophia decided to take her advice and went for a walk around campus. As she strolled through the autumn leaves, she bumped into an older student named Clara. They struck up a conversation, and Sophia found herself sharing the strange happenings in her dorm. "Oh, you're in room 204. Clara's eyes widened. "That room has a reputation. A girl lived there years ago and disappeared. Some say she never left." Sophia's heart sank. "What do you mean? What happened to her?" "They say she was dealing with personal issues, and one night, she just vanished. No one ever found her. Some people believe her spirit lingers there, warning others to leave." That night, Sophia felt a new sense of dread. She lay in bed, the whispers growing louder and more frantic. "Leave, get out." They seemed to echo from the mirror, and she felt a pressing weight on her chest. Desperate for answers, she decided to research the girl who had vanished. In the library, she found a dusty old yearbook and recognized the face in the mirror: Hannah, a student who had struggled with mental health issues. Her smile seemed sadder than Sophia remembered, and as she read about Hannah's life, she felt a connection, a shared understanding of feeling lost and unheard. When she returned to the dorm, she stood in front of the mirror, feeling the weight of Hannah's sadness. "I understand," she whispered, "but you can't keep me here." In response, the whispers intensified, swirling around her like a storm. "Stay with us," they pleaded, desperate and mournful. Sophia's heart raced as the mirror's surface rippled again. The figure of Hannah appeared, reaching out with a ghostly hand. "You're not alone," Sophia said. tears streaming down her cheeks. "You don't have to be trapped anymore." As she spoke, the room filled with a warm light, and the air grew still. For a moment, the whispers quieted, replaced by a sense of peace. Then, just as suddenly, the light flickered, and Hannah's figure began to fade. "Thank you," the voice whispered, softer now. "Help me find peace." With that, the room went quiet. The oppressive energy lifted, and Sophia felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over her. The mirror reflected her image clearly once more, no longer distorted by shadows. The next morning, Sophia found that the atmosphere in the room had changed. The air felt lighter, and the whispers had faded away. She felt a sense of closure for Hannah and knew she had helped free her spirit. As the semester continued, Sophia focused on her studies and mental health, using her experience to advocate for others struggling with similar issues. Hawthorne Hall was still old and creaky, but now it felt like a home rather than a prison. Though she would never forget the haunting presence of room 204, she found comfort in knowing that Hannah was finally at peace. Alright everyone, that brings us to the end of our story. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And if you have similar stories you'd like to share with us, feel free to reach out. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.